You know that moment when someone says something small, maybe even harmless, and suddenly you feel your blood boiling? It's not what they said, it's what it triggered inside you. That's what Carl Jung was really getting at when he spoke about anger and projection. He didn't believe you should suppress anger or pretend to be some peaceful monk who never reacts. But he believed that every time someone irritates you deeply, it's not just them. It's a reflection of something unresolved in you, and that insight alone can change the way you relate to almost everyone in your life. Because once you understand what's really happening beneath the surface, you stop being a victim of your reactions. You start becoming someone who can look at anger with awareness instead of letting it control you. Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When I first read that, I dismissed it. It sounded philosophical, abstract, but one day I saw it in action, for real. There was a colleague I worked with years ago. He was arrogant, always talking about his achievements, always trying to be the center of attention. I couldn't stand him. Every time he opened his mouth, I felt a rush of contempt and rage. Then I read that line by Jung again, and for a second I thought, what if I'm angry because he represents a part of myself I don't want to see? It made me uncomfortable, but it also felt true. I realized that I wanted recognition too. I wanted to be appreciated, but I had always told myself that wanting admiration was shallow, so I repressed it. And this guy, he was expressing that desire openly, almost shamelessly. My anger had less to do with him and more to do with the part of me I was refusing to acknowledge. That was the beginning of a quiet but powerful shift. I didn't excuse his behavior. I didn't suddenly become his friend, but I stopped taking it personally. I could almost watch the arrogance like a movie, instead of feeling personally attacked and tense. The emotion wasn't controlling me anymore. That's exactly what Jung was trying to teach. Not to become numb or passive or fake peaceful, but to use each emotional trigger as a mirror. If you do that over time, anger doesn't own you, it teaches you. Jung believed that our mind is full of parts we don't want to admit we have. The resentment, the envy, the insecurity, the need for validation. He called it the shadow. And when we see someone who displays or reflects our shadow out in the open, we explode. That's why you can stay calm with most people, but one specific type of person drives you mad. They're showing you a piece of yourself that you've pushed away. That's why no amount of self-help about stay calm, breathe, be positive really works if you don't do this inner work, because you're still at war with your own unseen parts. Jung said the real growth begins when we welcome the shadow consciously, and that's not comfortable. It's confronting, but it's liberating too, because then people lose their power over you. I remember a small but powerful anecdote I read in Jung's collected works. A man was furious with his neighbor for being lazy and irresponsible, always borrowing money and never paying back. In therapy, it turned out that this man had been raised to be extremely responsible and disciplined, so much so that he hated any sign of weakness in himself. When he lost a job once and felt like a failure, instead of processing it, he buried it. So seeing someone live so casually triggered that hidden shame in him. The neighbor was like a mirror of everything he was afraid to be. The moment he recognized that connection, his anger softened. He didn't suddenly condone irresponsibility, but he could see why it hit him harder than it should. Realizing that, he said he felt like someone had taken a heavy backpack off his shoulders. Anger often feels righteous, like we have the moral high ground. Jung warns that sometimes it's just a disguise for projection. When you catch yourself thinking, how can they be like that? That's often the moment your shadow is speaking. Because the truth is, we can all be like that, under certain conditions. This doesn't mean becoming passive or letting toxic people do whatever they want. Jung would never encourage being a doormat. The point is, if you want never to be controlled by anger, you have to see what or who inside you is actually reacting. If someone offends you, and you feel nothing, it's probably not your wound. But if it burns inside your chest, that's exactly where the work is. And that's where your power is too. Because there is real power in not reacting blindly. When I think about never getting angry or upset with someone again, I don't picture a calm monk in a temple. I picture someone walking through a crowded, messy world, and instead of being shaken every 5 minutes, they move through it like they understand why things happen. They understand themselves deeply, so others can't push buttons they've already disarmed. That's what Jung called wholeness, and it starts with one honest question. Why is this affecting me so much? So how do you actually apply this when you're in the heat of the moment? It starts with practicing the pause. The very moment you feel the irritation rising, instead of reacting with words or gestures, you pause, even if it's just 2 seconds. In that pause, you ask yourself, what exactly got triggered? Is it really about this person? Or is this touching something in me I haven't resolved? It's not a comfortable question, but it's a powerful one. Because the second you shift the focus inward, you regain control. That doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you choose your responses from a place of clarity rather than woundedness. Jung believed real freedom isn't about changing the world. It's about no longer being a slave to the emotional storms inside you. When I tried this with that arrogant colleague, I was shocked at how different everything felt. The next time he bragged, I didn't explode internally. I actually laughed a little. Not at him, but at the irony of how much I had let my own shadow control me. And over time, instead of hating him, I simply felt neutral. I even started using his overconfidence as a reminder to speak up more about my own work. Not for attention, but because I'd been hiding behind false humility for years. That's what Jung means when he says, the thing that irritates you can actually lead you to your own growth. There are 3 simple but powerful steps you can start living with from now on. First, notice what triggers you deeply and treat it like a message. Second, pause and reflect before reacting. Even a short pause gives your conscious mind a chance to take back the wheel. And third, ask yourself what part of you could be connected to what you see in the other person. Because if you can name it, you can integrate it. And when you integrate it, it stops controlling you from the shadows. This process won't make you immune to conflict, but it will make you almost impossible to shake at a deep level. You can disagree with someone without boiling inside. You can say no without rage. You can set a boundary without despising the person. That, Jung would say, is a higher form of self-mastery. Not being perfect, but not reacting like a puppet every time someone touches a nerve. And maybe the most beautiful part is this: the more you understand your own darkness, the more compassion you have for others. You realize most people are acting from their own wounds, just like you were. Suddenly, life becomes less about constant irritation and more about quiet understanding. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you free.